Good afternoon. I'm Alex Hepp, and I will be doing a video presentation for a computer security class, ICS 382, with Faisal as my professor. I have to remind you that this video is for educational purposes only. I cannot be held liable for any damages caused if you actually use any of these techniques outside of a training environment. Now that I covered all the fine print, let's get to the video. This presentation is titled How I Willy Wonka-ed This Network, or Demonstrating a Golden Ticket Exploitation of Kerberos on an Active Directory Domain Controller. I will be demonstrating exploitation and privilege escalation by migrating processes on a 2008 R2 Windows domain controller. We will dump the password hashes from Active Directory. We will then run an exploit from a simulated malicious website and compromise a Windows 7 Pro computer that is a member of the domain, logged on as a regular domain user. After that, we'll create a forged golden ticket and execute the attack with the forged Kerberos ticket. Finally, we'll show that we can maintain access with the forged ticket even after the domain administrator credentials have been changed. We start by preparing our Kali environment. We want to make sure that Postgres and Apache are started. Alrighty, Apache started. Next, we'll create the malicious executable that we'll be using to compromise the Windows 7 computer. For the sake of saving time, I've already created a malicious process, putty executable, and placed it on the domain controller. Using the MSF Venom program, you can inject a metasploitable interpreter into an executable or just create a standalone executable. In the real world, you'd have to be a little more crafty than this, but good antivirus should detect the interpreter injected into the executable. Something like PowerShell Empire is a little more stealthy. You can accomplish the same thing. But for the sake of this demo, let's go ahead and create our executable. So, P. So we're telling it that we want to use a Windows interpreter reverse TCP shell. Our local host is going to be the IP address of this Kali box. We're going to use the port 4444. That's the standard Metasploit port, but you could really use any port you want as long as it's not already in use on the target box that you're attacking or the Kali Linux box that you're using. We're going to form an executable, and then we're going to output it to my web server. I've got a free pizza malicious website that we'll be using a little later on in the demo. And this takes a little while to run. Valid payload selected. Okay, I probably spelled interpreter wrong. I have it doing that. METERPRETER. Alrighty. So you can see, since we didn't include a executable that we're injected into, it is uploading the raw payload into its executable, so it's just the interpreter shell itself in a plain old executable file. Okay, so this creates the malicious executable, and we placed it on the web server. Now let's actually start the Metasploit framework console. This again will take a little while to load. Okay. Now we have to set up the environment that's going to listen for the reverse shell that we're going to be connecting to from the 2008 domain controller. So we start by telling it the exploit we want to use. And let's set our payload. Spell interpreter right again. So that tells it that we're going to use the reverse TCP shell payload for the interpreter. And again, we'll set our L host. This again is the IP address of the Kali Linux box. And then we'll tell it what port we're listening on. Again, it has to match with the executable that is going to be expected to connect on a certain port. And then let's launch the reverse handler. Okay, so now we'll switch over to the 2008 controller. And we'll go ahead and launch our application here. Of course, since it was just the interpreter shell, nothing actually happens when we load PuTTY. And then coming back over to Kali, we can see that we've actually established a interpreter session. And then let's go ahead. And you can see we've now got a reverse shell onto the 2008 domain controller. And we happen to be logged in as the administrator of the hackv.com domain. And then we can do a who am I slash. We can see a little more about the user, see the groups and privileges that the user is a member of. So you remember the domain admins here. And the SID for the domain and the 500 admin user. Okay, so now let's try to actually dump the hashes from the domain because we'll need the Kerberos account's hash to be able to do our golden ticket attack. You can see we don't have sufficient privileges to be able to dump the hashes. So let's get system. And you can see that we successfully got system, so now we're logged into the server with system level access. I'll try to hash dump again. Still have insufficient privileges. So at this point, we can look at what process we're running as. And so we're running as PID 3016. So let's look at the processes. And you can see right here, putty.exe. It's x86 process and it's running as 3016, and this isn't sufficient. So on a 2008 domain controller, DNS works great as a system process to actually be able to migrate to that process and then run our hash dump from there. So let's see if we can find DNS in the list. DNS, here we go. So DNS is running as 13, looks like 1388. So let's migrate 1388. All right, migration completed successfully. Now we'll actually try to dump the hashes again. And you can see this time we're given all the hashes from all of the Active Directory accounts. We've got our guest account, the ticket granting account that we'll be concerned with, demo, Clicky McClickerface, our user on the Windows 7 computer. And let's grab the Kerberos hash right there. So this is what we'll need. And create a new document. And this is okay, and then we'll need domain SID after this. Okay, so now let's shut down our interpreter session. And then we're going to go ahead and start a new session, so when we connect from the Windows 7 computer, we'll be able to gain access. So exploit. Okay, so now we're listening for a session. And let's switch over to the Windows 7 machine. And see we're logged in as Clicky McClickface. So we're logged in as our troublesome user Clicky McClickerface. It seems that Clicky will click on anything put in an email directed to him. In this case, Clicky is being duped with free pizza. Who doesn't love free pizza? Even better is free pizza. So after all, they wouldn't put a link in an email if they didn't want you to click on it. We are going to simulate Clicky clicking on the link by going to a website. So we'll load up our web browser here. Here is the site that Clicky's being directed to in his email. It says, hey, free pizza. That looks pretty delicious. Get a free pizza by trying out our new application by clicking here. So, of course, Clicky, being so determined to get his free pizza, he goes ahead and bypasses all the security warnings. So we'll see Chrome warns you it's dangerous. So we'll have to go to our downloads here. And they try to warn you again, and of course, Clickies say, hey, free pizza's at stake, so we're going to click on our dangerous file, we'll keep it anyways, and then we're going to go ahead and run this, and they're going to warn you one more time that it's from an unknown publisher, and you probably don't want to do this, but Clicky, of course, after that free pizza, is going to go ahead and run it. Of course, nothing happens. Clicky's going to wonder if he's ever going to get his free pizza. Sorry, Clicky. Let's switch back over to the Kali box. And you can see that we've got our interpreter session started. So we've now got remote access to Clicky's box. And now we're going to grab the domain SID we're going to need for the Golden Ticket attack. So let's start a shell. And you can see we're logged in as Clicky McClickerface. And let's do a whoami/all. And then up here, we can see we've got the domain SID. And then this is the user portion of the SID. That's the domain is the same for everybody on the domain. This is the part that's unique to the user. So we're going to go ahead and copy this. Okay. Now we have enough information to go ahead and load. Let's get out of this shell. I'm going to have to load Kiwi. This is essentially Mimikatz, and that's what's running the actual Golden Ticket attack and gives the intelligence into the Metasploit framework. So let's go ahead and do our Golden Ticket create. We can do domain hackme.com. We're going to join the group 512, that's administrators. And then we're going to give it the hash for the Kerberos right here. Cut and paste that. And then, let's see, we got to give it a SID of the domain. We got to tell it a location to put the ticket that we're generating. So we'll do root ticket, and finally we have to give it a user. This user doesn't even actually have to exist in Active Directory. This attack is so powerful, so we'll just give it Willy Wonka. And you can see that we've written the golden ticket to the desktop and my ticket, and of course it appears over here. Do this. Normally a regular domain user wouldn't be able to browse the C drive of a domain controller. After we apply the golden ticket, you'll be able to see that we can connect and actually look at the contents of the C drive on the domain controller. So let's use that golden ticket we just created. So Kerberos ticket use root desktop my ticket. Excuse me. Let's use. I spelled desktop right, sorry. DESK top. Okay, so you can see that our ticket has been applied successfully. Now, we're authenticated with the Kerberos ticket, and we're going to do a shell, and do net use dc, command completed, and let's do a dir. And you can see we can now look at the C directory of the domain controller. And even if we change the domain administrator password, we'll still maintain access to Active Directory because we've actually compromised the Kerberos authentication that's running underneath the domain authentication. So let's exit out of the shell, and let's exit here, shut down our session, and we'll go over to the 2008 and go to Active Directory, take our administrator here, and we'll reset the password. Okay, password's been changed. So then we'll go back over to Kelly, and let's re-exploit that 2007 box. Okay, we're listening again. Clicky just can't get enough free pizza, so we're going to go ahead and run this again. Sorry, Clicky, no pizza for you. And we're back over to Kelly. You can see we've got our session. So then let's go ahead and rerun the Kerberos ticket use. So go to Kiwi. Okay, now Kerberos ticket use. Root desktop ticket. Okay, we successfully used that. Let's drop the shell. And see, we still gained access even after changing the administrative password. So there you have it. We covered getting access to a machine through a interpreter shell. We covered migrating to a different process when we migrated to the DNS process. We covered dumping the hashes. We covered executing a golden ticket attack and authenticating using a forged Kerberos ticket. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and a final reminder that this information is for educational purposes only. Don't try it at home. Go to a friend's house and do it.